Let me paint you a picture. A man named Richard, 68 years old, walked into my office last winter. He looked tired, really tired, the kind of tired that clings to your bones. "Doc," he said, rubbing the back of his neck, "I eat well, I exercise when I can, but I still feel like I'm fading." What struck me wasn't just his fatigue, but what he said next. "My drive's gone. I sleep 8 hours, but I wake up feeling like I never slept at all. And I haven't, well, let's just say I haven't felt like a man in a long while." He wasn't alone. You see, most men don't realize this, but how you sleep can matter just as much as how much you sleep, especially after 60. One small unconscious habit, like sleeping in the wrong position, can slowly strangle the very hormone that defines your energy, your strength, and yes, your manhood, testosterone. Do you ever sleep on your stomach? Or curl up tightly with your knees pressed in? You might think it's comfortable, but what if I told you that those very positions could be cutting off vital blood flow and suppressing hormone regeneration overnight? This isn't fear-mongering, it's physiology. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through exactly how this works and what you can do to take back control starting tonight. If this message hits home, type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't, type 2 so I can better understand who's watching. Let's get into it. Sleep posture disrupts testosterone flow. I want you to imagine something most men never think about. Every night, as your body lays down to rest, there's a silent system of regulation at work, your blood vessels, your nerves, your endocrine glands. They're not sleeping. In fact, they're hard at work rebuilding what the day has worn down. And the star of that rebuilding process, testosterone. Now here's the catch. The way you sleep, your posture can either help that process or completely derail it. Let me tell you about Harold. He was 64 when I met him. He'd been waking up groggy, weak, and strangely emotional. His wife had even joked that he cried more than she did during movie nights. But behind the humor, Harold was struggling. Blood tests showed low testosterone, yet his diet and lifestyle were decent. Something wasn't adding up. Then we talked about sleep. He told me he always slept on his stomach arms tucked under the pillow hips, pressed flat against the mattress legs stiff. That posture might seem harmless, but in men over 60, it compresses the pelvic floor and restricts testicular blood flow. The testicles are temperature sensitive and circulation dependent. Pressing them down for 6 to 8 hours a night, that's like trying to grow flowers in a drought. And when circulation slows, so does hormone production. Testosterone is released in pulses during sleep, especially during deep, slow-wave stages. But if your body is in a mild state of stress due to nerve compression, poor blood return from the groin, or oxygen limitations from a collapsed diaphragm, that cascade of hormone production gets shut down. A 2019 study from the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine showed that men who sleep on their stomachs have higher rates of morning fatigue and lower nocturnal testosterone levels compared to those who sleep on their sides or backs. I know what you're thinking, I've always slept like this. It's comfortable, but just because it feels familiar doesn't mean it's healthy. Try this tonight, lie on your back with a small pillow under your knees. Or if you prefer your side, place a pillow between your legs to keep your hips aligned. Give your pelvis space. Let your testicles breathe. It sounds awkward, maybe even a little silly, but this one change could do more for your testosterone than any supplement ever will. Harold made the change. Within 3 weeks, his energy returned, his mood lifted, and his wife told me with a wink that movie nights were a bit more exciting again. So tonight, before you roll into your usual position, ask yourself, what if? Just shifting a little could shift everything. Deep sleep. Shallow hormones. There's a hidden world inside your sleep. Most people think sleep is just about resting the body, but for men, especially as we age, deep sleep is like a nightly tune-up for our hormone engine. And when that engine stutters, everything from muscle mass to libido to mental clarity starts to fall apart. Let me introduce you to someone, James, a retired high school coach, 67 years old. Strong build, loud laugh, used to run 5 miles every morning. But when he came into my clinic last spring, his voice was softer, his shoulders lower, and he said, "Doc, I feel like my battery never charges anymore." The first thing I asked about was his sleep. He looked surprised. "I get about 7 hours a night," he said. But when we dug deeper, it wasn't about the hours, it was the quality. His sleep tracker showed shallow cycles, very little REM, almost no slow-wave sleep. That's the stage where testosterone is made in bulk. Here's the truth. Testosterone doesn't rise during the day. It rises when your eyes are closed, your brain slows down, and your pituitary gland begins its hormonal symphony. But if your body's misaligned, say your airway's slightly blocked because your neck's bent too far forward or your spine's twisted from curling up too tightly, it sends stress signals to the brain, and stress is the enemy of hormone production. In fact, the hypothalamus, the command center of your hormones, can interpret physical tension as psychological stress. That releases cortisol, the stress hormone, and cortisol directly suppresses testosterone. So yes, sleeping in the fetal position may feel comforting, but for older men it often reduces oxygen intake and increases neck and hip tension, disturbing the very brain waves needed for hormone regeneration. Studies from Stanford Sleep Lab have confirmed this. Men over 60 with poor sleep posture showed a 17% decrease in slow-wave sleep and significantly reduced morning testosterone over time. That's not minor, it's enough to tip the scales from feeling virile to feeling invisible. So what did James do? He started by changing his pillow, supporting his neck so his airway stayed open. He practiced sleep rehearsals before bed, lying flat on his back for 10 minutes, consciously relaxing his jaw, shoulders, and hips. Within a month, his REM sleep doubled, and his blood work showed a 28% increase in free testosterone. But more than that, his energy came back. His confidence returned. His wife told me he finally smiled in the mornings again. So tonight, ask yourself, are you giving your hormones the space they need to breathe, to grow, to serve you? You may not need a pill. You may just need to let go of old sleep habits of tight positions of tension you didn't know you were holding. Because real rest, that's where your strength is rebuilt. Circulation collapse, the silent hormone killer. You wouldn't believe how many older men walk into my office complaining about cold feet at night. It seems harmless, just a quirk of aging, right? But when I hear that, a light goes off in my mind. Because more often than not, poor circulation isn't just about cold feet. It's about cold hormones, specifically a quiet but persistent drop in testosterone. Let me take you back to a conversation I had with Lawrence, a 70-year-old widower. He was soft-spoken, polite, but behind his glasses was a kind of deep weariness. "Doc," he said, "I haven't had morning wood in years. I thought it was normal, but now even touching myself feels numb, like something's shut off." He wasn't exaggerating. What I discovered was this. Lawrence had a habit of sleeping with his legs elevated too high, his knees almost to his chest, cutting off blood returned from the lower pelvis. Combine that with slightly restricted breathing from his curled position, and what you get is a perfect storm for reduced oxygenation and stagnated circulation in the groin. This isn't just about erections, it's about oxygen and nutrient delivery to the testes and adrenal glands, which both contribute to testosterone production. When blood flow is compromised, those glands slow down. They go into a kind of survival mode, doing the bare minimum. That's why circulation is the often overlooked key in hormonal health. A paper published in Andrology Today highlighted that men with nighttime pelvic congestion caused by certain sleep postures showed up to 35% lower free testosterone in the mornings. Even more surprising, these same men often experienced fragmented sleep and increased nighttime urination. The body's way of saying, something's not right down here. I asked Lawrence to try something simple. A small wedge pillow under his knees while lying on his back and a rolled towel under his lower back to preserve spinal curve. It took him a few nights to get used to it, but within 2 weeks, he noticed the difference. "Doc," he said, eyes lighting up. I woke up, and it was there. Not just that it felt like me again. He was stunned that something as basic as posture could bring him back to life in a very personal way. So here's my challenge to you tonight. Do a simple circulation check. Lie down, close your eyes. Where do you feel the warmth, the pulse, the breath? If you notice coolness in your toes, numbness in your thighs, or a tightness in your hips, chances are your hormones are feeling it too. You don't need a complicated solution, just a new position, one that opens up your vessels, breathes life back into your core, and gives your body the chance to flow again. Because when blood moves, everything moves. Fix your sleep posture naturally. There's something beautifully simple about this part because it's not about medication or expensive gear or some complicated hormone therapy. It's about something you can do tonight without leaving your bedroom. Let's talk solutions. After decades as a urologist, I found that most men don't need more supplements. They need better sleep alignment. They need to understand that the body, especially after 60, becomes more reactive to pressure, position, and gravity. And yet the average man sleeps as if he's still 25, crashing into bed, flopping on his stomach, arms, and knees in whatever position they land. That's what happened with Edward 66. A former carpenter, a man of few words, but with the hands of someone who built things for a living. When I met him, his testosterone was bottoming out and he felt stiff and unmotivated every morning. I asked him how he slept. He said, "Same as I always have, flat on my stomach, arms under my chest." We went to work not with pills but pillows. Here's what we did and what I'd recommend for you starting tonight. 1. Switch to side sleeping, preferably on your left side. This reduces pressure on major blood vessels and improves circulation to the pelvic region. Use a firm pillow between your knees to align your hips. 2. Support your spine. If you sleep on your back, place a soft pillow under your knees to reduce lower back strain and maintain pelvic neutrality. 3. Avoid stomach sleeping. It flattens the natural curvature of the spine, compresses the genitals, and restricts diaphragm function, which interferes with deep oxygen-rich sleep. Even if it feels comfortable, it's working against your hormones. 4. Pillow placement matters. One under your head, one between your knees, and for some men, one behind your back to prevent rolling over. 5. Wind down with intention. Before you even lie down, take 5 minutes to stretch your hip flexors and shoulders. This calms the nervous system and makes it easier to maintain a healthy position through the night. Edward was skeptical, but he promised to give it 2 weeks. He even texted me photos of how he arranged his pillows each night like it was a construction project. But within 10 days, he reported deeper sleep, fewer bathroom trips, and most importantly, he woke up with something he hadn't seen in months, a spontaneous erection. That wasn't just physical, it was emotional, a return to something that felt lost. And that's the quiet power of alignment. When you sleep in harmony with your anatomy, your body responds. Testosterone production improves, circulation stabilizes, sleep deepens, mood lifts. So tonight, before you fall into your old patterns, ask yourself, are you sleeping in a way that honors the man your body is becoming? Because change doesn't require effort, it requires intention. And with the right position, your body can begin healing one night at a time. Testimonial: how Tom got his drive back. Tom wasn't the kind of guy who liked talking about feelings. At 72, he'd spent most of his life building houses, raising kids, and keeping his emotions to himself. But when he sat across from me last year, his voice cracked a little as he said, "Doc, I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like I'm disappearing." It wasn't depression. It wasn't illness. It was something more subtle and more personal. Tom's testosterone levels had plummeted over the past few years. He chalked it up to age, to retirement, to the natural slowing down of things. But the problem was he wasn't just slowing down, he was stalling. He had no energy, no desire, no sense of vitality. And worse, he couldn't remember the last time he felt aroused even slightly. "I've been sleeping worse," he admitted. "I wake up stiff." "Not that kind of stiff," he added with a dry laugh. "My back, my neck, everything aches." That was my cue. We dug into his nightly routine. Tom was sleeping in a recliner, slightly hunched knees, elevated neck, pushed forward. It felt comfortable to him like a nest, but what it was really doing was locking his pelvis in a tight angle, collapsing his diaphragm, and cutting off proper circulation. Testosterone can't thrive in that environment. It needs open channels, oxygen-rich blood, relaxed muscles, a nervous system that's not constantly alert. Tom's sleep posture was keeping him in a subtle state of fight or flight all night long. So we made a plan. I got him back into a bed first of all. We used a wedge to elevate his head slightly, placed a soft pillow under his knees, and taught him a breathing technique to calm his system before sleep. We also did a test run each afternoon, just 10 minutes of lying in this new position so his body could get used to it. The first week, nothing. The second week, he reported fewer bathroom trips at night. By the third week, he looked at me and said, "Doc, I don't know what's happening, but I feel awake when I wake up." That was just the beginning. His morning erections returned soft at first, but consistent. His mood lifted. He started fixing up his garden again, walking more, laughing louder. And when we checked his blood work at week 6, his testosterone had increased by 23% without a single supplement. But here's what he said that I'll never forget. "I thought I had to accept this quiet dying. I didn't know I could reverse it with something as simple as how I sleep. That's what I want you to hear. This isn't magic. It's mechanics. Hormones respond to pressure, to oxygen, to rest. And when you sleep wrong for years, your body forgets how to recover. But when you correct your posture, even in small, humble ways, you give your biology permission to restore itself. So don't underestimate your pillow, or the angle of your knees, or the breath in your belly before bed. Because sometimes the most powerful transformation happens while you're not even awake to witness it. Most men think the drop in testosterone after 60 is inevitable. They accept it the same way they accept gray hair or sore joints, something that comes with age, something you can't fight. But what if I told you, it's not always age. Sometimes it's your pillow. Sometimes it's how your hips are angled when you drift off to sleep. You see, testosterone doesn't just fade on its own. It responds to cues from your body, your circulation, your breathing, your nervous system, and all of those are deeply affected by how you sleep. We've spent the last few minutes walking through something most men have never been told, that your sleep posture could be slowly strangling your hormones night after night. It could be the reason you wake up groggy, uninspired, or feeling like a faded version of the man you used to be. But here's the good news. This isn't hard to fix. You don't need a prescription. You don't need another bottle of pills gathering dust on your dresser. What you need is awareness, a few pillows, a little intention, and the willingness to experiment just for a week. Try sleeping on your side tonight with a pillow between your knees, or lie flat on your back with a cushion under your knees. Just adjust, observe, and notice how your body responds. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, even early 80s regain vitality simply by changing how they slept. It's not theory, it's reality. I've watched it happen. So here's my invitation to you. Tonight, pay attention to your body. Tomorrow, reflect on how you feel. And over the next 7 days, give your testosterone the room it needs to come back to life. And when it does, you'll feel it in your strength, in your focus, and yes, in that quiet fire that makes you feel like you again. If this resonated with you, type 1 in the comments. If it didn't, type 2. Because the more I know who you are, the better I can serve you. Until next time, sleep well, breathe deep, and remember your body is still listening.